First formula. One of these a formula?
I think
Formula
so.
One, right?
Yeah,
everybody has a different formula.
Yeah, everybody has
not sponsored, but it's all good.
My formula is different, but there might be certain variables or equations that could really mesh together with my formula of my own life, but it's just finding it and just knowing which ones will fit and which ones don't.
Start off the same way.
We back at it again.
Nice, man.
This is crazy.
What's up, brother?
Not much, man. It's crazy to be back here again, and I'm so excited. A lot has changed in the last about 4 months since we did another episode, and it's crazy. A lot really has changed, and especially for me personally, the last couple weeks. And who knows what will happen in the next few months. Right now, it's like I'm having this crazy like self-discovery, like euphoria that I'm having, and it's crazy to even think about.
Yeah, it's especially you got done talking to Ali recently, who was kind of a catalyst to the inspiration that you kind of felt. Kind of going on that a little bit.
Yeah, so it all started a couple weeks ago whenever I went to go watch the Chiefs versus the Bills game, which was the craziest thing I ever saw.
Right.
And I got really, really drunk, and I got really drunk is an understatement, but yeah, once in the morning I was like really hungover, and I just decided to, you know what, I'm gonna watch both volumes of the clips that Mitchell put out for the entire 2021.
Nice.
And it was volume 2 that I saw, and the first clip was Ali asking the questions like, "Yo, why do you do what you do? Does it make you happy?" And him asking that was like, made me really think about like, yo, this speaks to me. It's like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Does it make me happy? And it kind of started getting me into this whole like inside self-discovery in that next hour. And then I was prompted to text you just this whole thing about like, yo, I think I figured out what I need to do, which is like give responsibility.
Taking accountability of your own life.
Yeah. And ever since that morning, I had that whole realization, it's been really sticking with me since, sobering up. And it's just like, what are the factors that I need to do to be able to apply that to my life? And one of the first things is not caring about what people think. And it's actually been going pretty well for me, like not overthinking and not like, oh, this person is probably thinking about this. And like, nobody really cares. If you say something stupid, if you do something quote unquote stupid, then screw it. You already did it, and just move on.
What tools or like what do you use to kind of help you stay grounded whenever that external criticism starts creeping in your head? Like, what do you do to sort of like keep yourself grounded?
For me, off the top of my head, I would say is experience, and just having those different experiences and just being able to understand like, yo, I've been through this before. Why is it any different? Like back in the day, I would just care about what people thought about me so much. Like ever since I was a kid, man, just like wanted to be accepted, wanted to be that, which of course for any human being, it's a normal thing. But for me, it's like, that was my priority for so many years is caring. Like, I want people to love me, accept me, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. But like I said recently, I'm like, why, for what though? What is that going to do? Like, is it going to help me advance in life? Like, there's really no stability or longevity in any of that. If you're trying to put up this front just to be able to progress, quote unquote, faster, but it's like, it's just going to lead you up this, I guess, ladder that the more you do it, eventually you're just going to plummet.
It's about the grit and the integrity within the grit of constantly doing hard work, and there is no shortcuts around that.
Yeah, and on top of that, it would be also just being yourself and living in your own truth, which is something.
That's the authenticity, right? That's the authenticity aspect of it.
Yeah, and that's something I've done recently, is living in my own truth. It's like, look, I'm gonna say what's on my mind. I'm gonna tell you how it is. Like, yo, what are my intentions? I'm just gonna say it, and however the person reacts, it is what it is. If they get mad at me, cool. If they're happy by it, cool. If they support me, whatever. Just like at the end of the day, I just want to be able to just live in my truth and just say what's on my mind without having to caveat or BS and be like,
nice.
Oh, like if I say this, I'm like, who cares? Like, if people are going to love you for who you are, and like, you may have flaws, you may have this or that, and what you might say might offend some people, but at the end of the day, you're just being you. And I mean, right now I could definitely say like it's a self-discovery / restart, because
we had months of growth and progress and self-awareness.
Yeah.
It's not like it was 2 weeks ago we started doing this.
Yeah.
Because how long ago was the podcast we did?
4 months.
Right.
Yeah. And it's really, for me, the biggest thing with restarting that foundation is the working out and eating right and all that stuff. For me, I've realized that over all these years of my fitness journey, that whole time I was doing it for others and not myself, because I would thinking about different times where I would like look at myself in the mirror and like working out hard for months and months and still hating myself because like, oh, I don't have the V line, I don't have the six pack, or like I still have this stubborn fat on me, and my muffin top's going over my waist, and it's like, if I don't get this specific thing that I want for at this certain time, then these people won't like me, then this girl won't be into me, and blah, blah, blah.
If I don't get the six pack by the summer, if I don't get the instant gratification, why am I even doing it in the first place?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like for me, it's like I said, restarting it and telling myself like, look, just love yourself regardless of where your body's at. And of course I want to still stay active. That's my goal right now on my fitness journey, is to just stay active. Cause for the longest time that kid, myself, that was on the podcast 4 months ago, he was on a grind for sure, and he was chasing it, but it was for the wrong reasons. Like I was really doing it for others. Like I wanted to gain muscle. I was like, yeah, do it. But then, like I said, I look back, I'm like, I'm doing this just to impress others, not for myself. And
did you just recently talk to Ali? Was that today?
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
Yeah,
okay,
yesterday
nice.
from the day we recorded this. And like Ali, one of the things he said to me was that, dude, you're well spoken. And I was like, what? Like it was like a curveball for me. I was like, I never thought of myself as that, because I'm always in my head about everything. I'm like, this or that, but like, nah, man. Ali was like, yeah, man, you've always been well spoken. I'm like, damn. I just understanding my own self-worth, and someone who I've actually, like, he was someone that when I was younger, I used to be very envious of, because he was like, everybody loved him, everybody like respected him. I was like, man, that's what I want and all that stuff. And then hearing that from him, I was like, damn, like I don't realize the kind of influence or impact or what people see from their perspective, because I'm so stuck in my head a lot.
Right. And it's reassuring, man. It's reassuring because it's not like it's not like as men we necessarily need those sort of insights, those sort of self-affirming insights from other people. It's not that we need it, but in hearing it, it gives us that reassurance. It gives us that sanity and knowing like, or that newfound perspective that we otherwise may not have thought about, that, man, I actually am kind of articulate. I never thought about me being even articulate or me being well-spoken. I never thought about that. Maybe I am well-spoken. Maybe that'll give me the confidence next time I go on the podcast to articulate myself in a well-spoken manner, because I now have the confidence reassured from somebody else that I'm well-spoken.
Yeah, and personally, it's easier said than done. But hearing it, it's like, okay, right, I just got to keep it with me and just, let that reassurance drive me, and not just like let it be a quick high and then it's gone.
And the way you maintain that inspiration is doing and is adhering to discipline and doing hard shit consistently. Like you hanging around people that are going to recognize and give you that insight and that reassurance consistently is going to give you that same level of insight and reassurance. You coming in here and boxing multiple times a week, anytime you lose that motivation, that reassurance is going to remotivate you and get you that bounce back. It doesn't have to be hanging out with Ali and seeing him every week. It doesn't have to be boxing here twice a week. It just has to be certain activities in your life that can give you that feeling of decompressive fulfillment.
Yeah, and I'm still finding that, but like I said, everybody's formula is different when it comes to those decompressive things.
Formula One racing.
Yeah.
First form, right?
Yeah,
First formula. Are one of these a formula? Yeah,
I think
Formula
so.
One, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has a different formula.
Yeah, everybody has
not sponsored, but it's all good.
But yeah, no, that's something I've had a realization just recently, is that everybody's life is different and everybody's equation and formula of how they live life is differently. And the way I see it now is that my biggest mistake that I did for a long time was that any advice I would get, I would take it so religiously to where I would literally copy the exact same formula that person was living and paste it to my own life and try to live exactly like them. But now it's like, okay, my formula is different, but there might be certain variables or equations that could really mesh together with my formula of my own life, but it's just finding it and just knowing which ones will fit and which ones don't. Because like I said, whatever, everybody's decompression is different. Like it could be boxing, it could be golf, it could be drawing, it could be this, it could be that, but it's just like trying different things
and finding it.
Yeah. And that's something I'm still personally figuring out. Like boxing definitely helps. Like there's just I don't think I've experienced enough like activities to be able to do that. Like
you haven't done it enough to have it become a substantiated habit. It hasn't become habitual yet to where it's almost second nature.
Yeah.
It's still in that, remember when we talked about system 1 versus system 2 way of thinking, where you have your system 2, which is going to be your slow, fundamental way of thinking. You have to be more intentional about thinking, like when you were first driving.
Yeah.
It's a very methodical system 2 way of thinking. And now when you drove here, you're probably low-key able to text or do whatever on your phone on the side, because that driving, which was once a system 2 way of thinking, is now a system 1 fast, intuitive way of thinking.
Yeah.
It's now second nature. And the discipline of consistently finding worth, let's say, especially in your fitness and in your eating right, is something that hasn't become substantiated and habitual yet, that it's still hard to think about how it'll become automatic, just like when you went from being 10 to 2 to now being able to drive casually at 12 o'clock.
Yeah. And it's funny, going off of that is, recently, one of the activities I'm thinking about getting back into is skateboarding. And like I was hanging out with a buddy of mine, I just been at the skate park. I was like, man, I want to do this again. Like I was always so scared to do it, but like now knowing that with skateboarding, it's you're gonna fall, you're gonna get hurt a little bit, but as long as you get back up and you keep trying, it's like it's all you can do. It was the same thing with like whenever I drove. I remember like the first time pressing on a gas pedal, I was like, whoa, like just kind of jolting. I was like, this is new territory. But now, you know, it's like
second nature.
Yeah. And I had this conversation with my dad a couple days ago about it. It's like, do you remember when you were like, when you first drove, you were scared, but now you're like, you're just, it's second nature, like you said. And like I said, for me, like I see possibly skateboarding as another decompressive
outlet.
Yeah, for sure.
Another decompressive outlet. I don't mean to keep interrupting you. My bad.
No, you're good. No, you're good. But yeah, I say, yeah, I sometimes forget the words, but yeah, using skateboard as a decompressive outlet. And like, you know, we talked about it too, you know, wanting to go skateboard and just, you know, just get out of our comfort zone.
Oh yeah. So I always make sure I can at least drop in. My goal was to always make sure I could still land a kickflip. Can't really land a kickflip anymore.
I can never. I still haven't learned to do an ollie. No, okay. I can't ollie. Like one of my goals right now is to just
learn how to ollie.
Not even learn how to ollie, just go down a ramp.
Okay, nice. Yeah,
like simple stuff. Like maybe do a little dip, but not like the really ones that just like go 90 degrees.
But yeah, definitely having different modes, different outlets for decompression, especially as a man in the 21st century, I think is very important and very crucial. Now, I think it's important for both men and women to have that decompressive outlet. I just think, you know, if they can just find an outlet or two to be able to facilitate and decompress that angst that they feel in their day-to-day, it'll allow them to be that much more mindful in finding their self-worth and discriminating against the need to find approval through other people and through external means.
Mm-hmm. And I will say that, especially in this age, in the 21st century, that pressure of being a man it's kind of actually becoming more like, it's becoming less and less stressful, because the ideology of men being vulnerable is becoming more and more accepted.
Right. Versus imagine our great grandparents, like the men of our great ancestors saying, oh, I'm a little depressed today. Like they wouldn't have been able to get away with it. They just wouldn't have. So they didn't think about it. And it isn't until you have a society like we have today where you have the luxury to sit down and actually think about it.
Yeah. And it's really been, it started with our generation. Like that's really like the mental health and like really becoming advocates and becoming self-aware and just aware in general about mental health and being accepting of it has become bigger and bigger and bigger throughout the years. It's really been the last couple years.
Right.
And
it's become destigmatized for sure.
Yeah. And our conversations that we had about being a man is like being able to provide, but it's also to now it's like being able to show that vulnerability. You know what I mean? Like that stigma of like, oh, I gotta be tough. I gotta be this. I gotta be that. You know, for me, I see it as toxic masculinity, but I understand why, because, you know, like you said in the past is that, you know, we have to be provided. It
was needed.
Yes, needed. But now in this day and age, it's like
unnecessary. Yes, the toxicity degree that was once warranted is unnecessary nowadays.
Yeah, and right. Like it's okay to be vulnerable. Of course, there's still guys out there that like think, oh, that's weak. That's some pussy shit or whatever it is. But it's like, nah, dude, it's being human. Like we have emotions. It's just that stigmatization in the past.
Now don't get it twisted. There is some savagery that must be maintained. But I agree with you. It's the non-repressing of those feelings.
Exactly.
So there's a fine balance, I feel like. But I agree with you. It's so much on the more decompressive end because of how psychotic men used to have to be for all of human history.
Yeah. And it's, for some people, it's like, oh, it's a good thing. Some people, it's not. I think personally, it is a good thing
It's a good thing because men aren't psychopaths no more.
Yeah.
Men used to be psychopaths. It didn't benefit us to have emotions. It didn't benefit us to say, or to even have the ability to process, do I feel like hunting a mammoth today?
It's like you don't have a choice.
Do I feel like going and seeing if the snares got any game and to see if I have to reset the snares? Do I feel like going out and collecting water and filtering that water throughout the entire day? Do I feel like maintaining and starting a fire? Do I feel like?
You don't have a choice. You have to do it because that was the cards they were dealt with.
Man, it just, knowing history puts it in perspective, and I think that's the biggest thing. Knowing not only how lucky you are by thinking about how your ancestors had it, but really reading on the circumstances that your ancestors had to endure, and those circumstances were were circumstances in which it was nothing but psychotic men running around. You know what I mean?
And that was just the thing that was accepted because that was just all you saw. That was just the norm.
It was the norm. It was the norm.